It's going to be an absolute madhouse on Friday night. Welcome inside Game Day Winnipeg ahead of Week 17 in the Canadian Football League. Chris Walby, just 4 games remain for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Still work to do, coming off a loss in their last game against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. How are you feeling right now coming out of the bye week, and how are you feeling about this Blue Bomber club?
Well, I feel great coming out of the bye week. I enjoy the bye week just as much as everybody else. I get to catch up on some stuff. As much as I love being on these little podcasts with you, DB, and talking, and I saw that I was just cleaning my glasses before I came on to make sure I read that comment right, that I had a hair appointment. That was very good of you. That was very astute, yes. Hair today, gone tomorrow.
You want to go early today, so.
No, that was a good one. That's good. I like that. But no,
you got business you got to take care of. Like
always, brother. Always. I got stuff to do, and it's funny. I was working on my pool, and I was filling it up to basically close it, and I forgot about it. And I had at 9:30 at night. I went, oh my god! So I had to drain it again because it went into my skimmer. So I had to bring the water out again. So anyway, no big deal. That's just one of my lovely stories to start the podcast with.
Well, I got to say, I'm very impressed with your camera setup today. You're well lit. You look good, and you're wearing your orange hat for the Truth and Reconciliation game that is this one at IG Field on Friday.
Yeah, listen, that's a great thing. I'm really happy. I love the decals. I was trying to get hold of the equipment manager, Brad Foddy, last time. I think they wore this decal once before.
The W, yep.
And they were gone. The players, I guess, like them. Everybody's grabbing them. I was trying to get one. I just think they're so cool.
Unique.
I love the idea. I love the fact what we're doing. I love that Saskatchewan's wearing orange uniforms, I heard. I think they're going to wear orange.
Both teams are going to wear orange during warm-ups, and then they're going to auction all those uniforms off for WASAC.
Good for that. Good for them. That's a great cause, man. Listen, I'm really happy about that. I didn't know if I was wondering, like, how could they get away with playing like Denver? The Orange Crush used to be one of my favorite teams, the
right.
Denver Broncos. So, hey, listen, it's a great cause. I'm glad to hear they're going to auction after. Hopefully, raise a lot of money for, help a lot of people. So, but yeah, I'm a little wondering about this game because it showed me some things, a little bit of weakness in the game against Hamilton. Their offensive line, which has been taking a lot of heat, and I'm talking about Hamilton, they didn't allow a sack. I don't think Dane got touched in that whole game. And it just tells you if you don't get pressure, the back end becomes very vulnerable. And you saw that as Dane Evans had a career day of 5 touchdown passes. It was almost like the Bombers were playing safe by having everything in front of them, but they're allowing, the easy pitch and catches. Now, I'm not going to say they were all easy because some of the balls that Dane Evans threw in the end zone were beautiful, just beautiful rainbow passes right into the arms of the receivers. So give credit where credit due. They came prepared. I don't know if the Bombers were overconfident because they had been beaten a bunch of times. But having said that, they got to play a whole heck of a lot better against a team that I think you can get overconfident, and that is Saskatchewan because they have got all kind of problems.
No question they do. A thought on Dane Evans. He goes from that CFL top performer in the Week 15 win against Winnipeg, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, as you mentioned, to losing in Montreal the next week. So Hamilton not able to take advantage of that momentum and knocking off the top team in the league and in decisive fashion. He played okay. He threw for nearly 300 yards, but no touchdowns, no interceptions. Montreal just kind of rode off the arm of Trevor Harris for the most part as he threw 2 and was a clean sheet. So the East Division still wide open. Of course, Saskatchewan on Friday will be playing for, the opportunity to either stay in the West or stay alive for that crossover. They need to finish.
They have to finish
better. They have to finish. Saskatchewan to crossover. They have to finish better than the third place team in the East. They cannot be tied with them and then have a tiebreaker. They have to finish with a better record. So it's do or die essentially for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, but they are banged up. No Frankie Hickson, placed on the 6-game injured list. I love Keenan LaFrance, great Winnipegger, longtime CFLer, good football player, but even though they're getting Dan Clark back at center, I don't see Saskatchewan's offensive line being strong enough, Chris, to have, pass protection for Cody Fajardo and to be down to their third string running back to have an effective run game against Winnipeg.
Well, I'll say this, and I agree with you 100% on the Hickson story. Obviously, Jamal Morrow's still out. Hickson's out now with a fractured wrist, probably gone for the year, they think. Keenan LaFrance. Now, if you remember back in 2016, he was a member of the Ottawa. I don't even know if they were Red Blacks back then.
They were, yeah.
He had a great Eastern final. I think almost 200 yards rushing. I watched an interview today with Nick Dembski, who's a good personal friend, close friend of Keenan LaFrance, and just this is a guy that's getting us opportunity to come back home and get a start. Now they also brought another guy in, and they thought they might play him, and that was Sean Williams, I think, or Willis, but he pulled a groin. He just was there about a week, a little 5'9" running back. So now it's interesting. Look at the depth chart. The backup running back now is Mario Alford.
Yeah.
The punt returner. I mean, yeah, he's got – I bet if I went – I didn't look. I did not go into his bio, but I bet you somewhere in that bio he must have played running back somewhere in his collegiate career, high school career, somewhere for them to even entertain playing him at that position.
If you're a good kick returner, you can run in traffic. You have speed, obviously. You have burst. But you also, I think, have the ability to break tackles and run in traffic, run with a lot of guys and potential tacklers around you. Is it different than returning the football? Absolutely. Oh, yeah. But it's not, night and day situation. I think Mario Alford could be a nice change of pace. But with LaFrance and Alford, I don't know if it's enough of a punch to make the run game a legitimate threat. It might be Cody Fajardo who could lead this game in rushing.
Well, he's the leading rusher in the team now. I mean, that's the thing. He had 287 yards rushing. He's got 7 touchdowns. He's feeling healthy. This guy, he can't win it. He gets more heat. When he plays great, they love him. He goes from the penthouse to the outhouse every week, and the fans are just, they got about 1 million people with broken legs. They're jumping on and off the apple cart. But having said that, I want to say one more thing about Mario Alford. The fact is, when you're a punt returner, to your point there, Darrin, you got a 5-yard rule. So he has an ability to see what's coming at him a little bit, where if you're getting the ball right now, there's no such thing as 5 yards. You get penetration from, Casey Sales or Jake Thomas. He's not, you can get slammed in the backfield. I do agree with you. He's got great speed. I really want to look it up and see where he played, and I might have to just take a quick peek one day and see where he is because West Virginia. I bet you he did run the ball a little bit down there. But, am I worried about it? No. But do I want Keenan to play well? I do because I'm a homer. I love guys that come out of Manitoba. I want all the Manitobans who play. But you talked about that O-line, and I know here we do with the pinball again in my head. They got 3 new starters now. Dan Clark at center, who's a veteran, and he's the leader of that group. This guy is amazing. Coming back with from a broken leg. This is a guy that a year ago got thrown through a windshield in a car accident and came back from that. Then you got Logan Furlad, who did not play last time, Regina Ram grad. And now you're finally going to see Taron Vaughn, an old guy that used to play against Willie Jefferson. So it's pretty interesting when you talk about the 3 guys on the left side. They are all new starters since the last time the Bombers played. Yeah.
Dan Clark, first action in a long, long time. How effective will he be? I think having that veteran
huge
element and also just the communication at starting at center, I think will help them. But I don't, people are like, oh, okay, Dan Clark's back. Saskatchewan's offensive line is going to be so much better. I'm not exactly sure of that.
I agree. It takes time to gel.
Go ahead, Chris.
It takes time to gel, D, but you know it as well as I do. You're not going to come in there and instantaneously. This is the old line they had projected to start the season. This is the first time they've played together. We're talking, as you say, 15th game in or whatever it is right now. And now, you're basically got your offensive line that you basically thought was going to be a starter in training camp, finally getting their first game together. And it takes, do they have the continuity? Do they have the chemistry yet? No, absolutely not. But having said that, I think Dan Clark, to your point, and I think you said it already, the chemistry and the leadership he brings, the ability, the fact that he's played so many years, the ability of him not only knowing, but recognizing any defensive front, being able to tell the guys what they have to block. That's the key right there, because your center's the guy that makes the calls, right? A slide protection, double team protect, whatever you got to do, right? Pick up the, the back. The back has to pick up the blitzing linebacker or the outside, blitz. So yeah, I think it's a plus for him. But do I think they're going to have? I don't. I want him to play well, but I just don't know, because I mean that continuity thing and chemistry thing is a huge thing for me. Having played O-line, it's always tough to play with a guy in a game when you haven't really played with him, very much, maybe just aside from a couple of practices.
They're going to be going up against a new look, in a way, defensive front from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, as Jackson Jeffcoat and a hip injury will keep him from playing Friday night. Cedric Wilcox will start at defensive end. Cooper is a young player that they've had there for a couple weeks, but hasn't played a ton of downs. Depth at defensive end for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers behind Willie Jefferson starting to get quite thin. The team signed Keon Adams, who played a handful of games for the Saskatchewan Roughriders this season and last season, a former 7th-round pick in the NFL by the Pittsburgh Steelers. High pedigree, high athletic player that has really kind of struggled through injury during his time in the NFL. Interesting that Saskatchewan cuts him and Winnipeg brings him in. When you would bring in guys from other teams, Chris, as an offensive lineman, say you'd bring in a defensive lineman, would you talk to him about what the other team does?
Sure you do. I mean, this smells. It smells like that right now. I mean, as a Rock, that's the Rock. Do you smell what the boys are cooking? I do. I smell it right now, because I think what they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, what's the defensive scheme you guys like to run against certain situations? He's going to be able to feed them a bunch of information. Now, it's still hard, because, you can say that they have a tendency to do this, you have a tendency to do that. I mean, obviously, it's interesting that he gets cut and he gets picked up the very next day. It might be the same day. He was cut yesterday, and he's picked up yesterday.
Right.
So, I mean,
one day, 27th and 28th, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, one day apart. So they wanted something. But, yeah, I think that he's a guy that has some idea. He's been there for a couple of years. He knows what Shivers likes to do on defense. And I'm sure there's some keys, but again, keys are only good after the play. I mean, very hard to recognize what they're doing unless you're a guy that's playing safety, or you're playing middle linebacker, where you're making all those defensive calls. He's a lineman. His job basically is to get to the quarterback, fill a gap or get to the quarterback. I don't know how much input he's going to be able to really lay on the Bombers offensively, or to Buck Pierce to help him out.
Shane Gauthier still starting at weak side linebacker, as Malik Clements and Kyrie Wilson still recover from injury. Clements probably closer than Wilson at this point, but I don't think either of those players are going to be a factor in the next couple of weeks as far as coming back. Adam Bighill has been battling through some shoulder issues. Was he on the injury report this week? I'm just pulling it up here.
I don't think he was.
He wasn't. So that is a positive sign, but pretty much all the players on the Blue Bombers injury report, I'll pull that up right now for people to see. Nobody was limited. It was all DNP, did not participate, did not practice. Mike Miller, he has been one of these guys that just hasn't really practiced all season. Expect him to play. Drew Latarski will be out. Stanley Bryant will play. When Jeff Gray is moving from left guard to left tackle in practice, that screams to me, this is what we would do in game if we had to, not what we would do if you got to make a change going into the week, right? So a positive indication for the Iron Man Stanley Bryant, however old he is, seemingly ageless and seemingly, having all-star season after all-star season, giving him a break at this time of the year, similar to last season, Chris, to just ensure the workload isn't too much for him. He's playing his best in November.
Yeah, and I agree with that. To me, it's a smart move by the team. And I know that their offensive line coach swings them all around, and it gets great. Great is a natural tackle anyway. He played tackle in the university ball. He knows how to play that position. He's quick. He's very smart. He grasps the offense. He knows what he's got to do. He understands the footwork's a totally different thing. Where when you're playing a guy right head up on your inside gap, and all of a sudden you're at a tackle where your guy can line up 5 yards to the outside. It's all about your footwork, getting your hands in the proper, and it's angles. Everything's about angles. So I think that he can do it. But do I think it's I think it was really smart of the Bombers to give Stanley. I mean, Stanley went out the last game against Hamilton for a couple plays. He got spatted up, which just taped his ankles up, and he came back and finished the game. But yeah, it's a smart move, just in case. And also, if they run up the score a little bit, maybe they move Gray to left tackle, get him some opportunity to play. It's interesting that Kolinkowski is still listed as a starter at center. I would figure that Michael Couture be starting pretty soon.
It makes me wonder because Couture has dressed for each of the last two games, right? So he comes off the injured list. It's a broken arm, a broken forearm. He will have it casted or has had it casted in the games and in practice and that sort of thing. But this screams precautionary to me. They have them there if they need him, but the last thing they would want is for Michael Couture to refracture or re-break that arm, because then essentially his season would be done. He would be out for the next 6-8 weeks, and maybe you get him back for the Grey Cup or the West Final, but even that is a question mark at that point. But for him to dress, it tells me he's close. They just want to make sure that bone is fully healed. Speculating is a non-expert, of course, but just making sure that he's as close to healthy as possible before they put him in. Like you're punching, right? You got a broken arm and you're punching. You could probably call
your arm's got to be up quick, because you snap with your right hand. You got to have your left hand ready to take on the guy incoming defensive tackles. But having said that, they are in a situation with Chris Kolinkowski. He's played well. He's played very well at that center position, so there's no rush. This is another one of those bonuses where you allow a guy to play. He's getting great experience, and at the time when Michael Couture can come back fully healthy, he can come back and play. But I always said that sometimes when the door closes, and another door opens, you never know what's going to happen. And it's right now it's Kolinkowski's job. I haven't seen him play bad. I mean, I've watched him. He's blocking well. He's a heck of a run blocker. He seems to get better every week. He's playing well with Gray and Neufeld, his two guards. So, the Bombers, one of the things they have is they've had such consistency at O-line. Aside from Couture missing, I mean, that offensive line has been basically solid all year.
Well, and it helps that Brady Oliveira has been solid and healthy all year as well, but it's the receiving core that has definitely taken a hit this season. Drew Wolodarski still unable to practice or play, remains on the one-game injured list. As far as the receivers are concerned, Carlton Agadosi out of a walking boot, according to reports, but still not practicing. Greg Ellingson on the 6-game injured list as well. The players I think Winnipeg is probably missing the most right now is defensive back Nick Taylor. It will once again be, as you see here on the depth chart,
replaced.
Jamal Parker starting at corner and Evan Holm starting at halfback. Parker, a rookie. Holm was here a little bit last season, but effectively pretty much a rookie as well. Those are two areas I think Winnipeg has been susceptible against opponents this year. Wouldn't you expect Cody Fajardo to continue to target some of those, thinner areas when it comes to who's been playing and who's been backing up?
Well, anytime you lose a game, and I shouldn't even say anything, you lose a game, anytime you've had a success in one form or another against a team, that the next game, the offense or defense is always going to scout that team and watch and break down that film and say, what did they find that worked for them? There's no doubt in my mind that Cody Fajardo, Jason Moss, the offensive coordinator, have looked at that film and said, what did Dane Evans do so well?
Right.
It allowed them to move the ball as they did and throw the ball and have that success with 5 touchdowns. And everybody steals plays. I mean, there's only a number of plays you can. I mean, you're not reinventing the wheel here. And I think because of the fact that, you don't have your normal running backs playing there, Morrow and Hickson, I still think Keenan is a heck of a running back. But one of the things he doesn't get a lot of credit for, he's a heck of a blocker. That's one of the things he has on his resume, that he blocks very well. And that's what they're going to need against the rushing. Because I think that there's going to be a little heat on the Bombers' defensive line this time. They didn't really get any pressure last week. I was blown away. I mean, they were non-factors. Now, I know one guy is going to play, and he's going to play for a different reason, and that's Willie. And, I mean, we got to say congratulations to Willie and Holly Jefferson on the addition of their new daughter, Riley Rose. So, he is he's going to be, for lack of a better, riled up for Riley. And I expect Willie to come out and play a heck of a game against her. Or not against her, against Cody.
Right, of course. And they're going to need Willie Jefferson to be on his A game too, because no Jackson Jeffcoat and a little bit thinner on that defensive line. Samuel Emilius also out of the Saskatchewan Roughriders starting offense. Still no Duke Williams either.
Yeah,
so
that's weird. I watched them
they are without a lot of their offensive punch. Kean Schaefer-Baker, Justin McInnes, Brendan Lenius, a very good trio on that strong side of the field. Shaq Evans and Kieran Moore. There's still a lot of receiving talent in the Saskatchewan Roughriders offense. I think they're going to have to be relying on those guys to be the go-to guys to move the chains on second down. It's going to be a battle to me between that receiving core and Winnipeg's defensive secondary. You could probably even lump in Donald Rutledge Jr. and Shane Gauthier, who was most definitely targeted a lot by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. You worried about that?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, you got to go and try and get those matchups, especially if you can have a running back against against an outside linebacker and do what's called a wheel route, which is down to the sideline and up the field. Some of these guys, if they can't keep up with the speed of a running back, well, it does make for a mismatch, and that's what you're trying to get. I'll say this, though, when you're talking about Saskatchewan, they have a good defense. And the thing is, this is a team, and I went and looked at it. I said, whoa, what's going on here, fellas? And they had, what's the penalty here? 24 penalties for 240 yards versus Winnipeg in 2 games. 24. The positive note, if you're Craig Dickinson, they only had 3 penalties for 30 last week when they lost. But having said that, you can't take crucial penalties. Remember the game last time they lost to Duke Williams sideline, cost them moving the ball in there for a first down, cost them points. And they just got, they're going to talk about the flu game or the COVID game or whatever, the food poisoning game, whatever it is. I look at the first game they played in that very close match when it was 20-18 on Labor Day. That was the game that I thought Saskatchewan and Winnipeg would play because they're 2 good teams that basically like to just get at it. So I'm anticipating a tough game. I know a lot of people are saying the Bombers are going to put up a lot of points against Saskatchewan, but Saskatchewan's defense isn't that bad. If they just stay out of the penalty box, they might be okay.
Well, they've got 3 of the best linebackers in the game in Sankey, Moncrief, and Dean, and then great talent up front as well with AC Leonard and Robertson. He has been amongst the CFL sack leaders all season long and definitely a player to contend with. So Stanley Bryant and Jamarcus Hardrick, their work is going to be cut out for them. On the whole, though, Chris, how concerned should Bombers fans be about the overall health situation? Winnipeg still does have a bye remaining this year that's going to come in mid to late October. They got Saskatchewan, Edmonton, and then at BC before that final bye, leading into their final game of the season.
What's your question?
Well, how concerned should fans be with, just 4 games remaining, albeit, still have a bye week in there as well to get healthy?
Oh, Bombers, listen, Bombers, I don't want people pushing a panic, but we're 12-2. Yeah, you're bound to lose a couple games. And I always say this, I'd rather lose regular season than the playoffs, where it's, do or die, you go home if you lose, pack your bags, get your garbage bags ready. No, I think there was a good lesson for the Bombers. And I listened to Richie Hall, the defensive coordinator. He talked a lot about it. He said, he thought we were very complacent. They weren't really into it. You know what I mean? And I listened to Brandon Alexander, who I think by even his own admission did not have a stellar game back. I mean, he's just still trying to get his feet under him. So I think that he was talking about communication. The new guys, right? Holmes, Parker, making sure you're always on the same page. And they weren't. I mean, you looked at they beat Winston Rose for a nice touchdown. I mean, we're not picking on anybody individually, but that's one of your leaders on the corner there. They just threw the ball extremely well. Now I know they watched the film, and that's a good thing because you get more of a loss sometimes than you do on a win because you can't sugarcoat it. So now they have to get back to the basics. They put equipment on the first day back, which I thought was great. and they went at it. And I like that because you got to remind these guys, hey, the season, you got what, like you said, you got what, 12-2, 14, 4 games left. And then you're in the playoffs. And you know you're in the playoffs. They win tomorrow, they clinch a playoff game, home game.
Or a Calgary loss.
Or a Calgary loss. Now,
and that would be a home game. Not the West. Yeah, I clarified this because there's still a lot of confusion out there. A Winnipeg win or a Calgary loss. They're home to Toronto this weekend.
Yeah.
Winnipeg would clinch a home playoff game, not the home playoff game everybody's hoping for being the West final. It would be a home playoff game. So at least the West semifinal against presumably Calgary or BC. Saskatchewan's still in the mix. If they're able to win Friday and effectively win out the rest of their schedule, they would be able to get into third place, maybe even second in the CFL West Division.
No, I think they're looking right now third. I don't think they even look at
They've got Calgary twice to end the year.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we got BC twice to end the year too, so that'll be interesting. And I saw that Nathan Rourke was on the sideline without the walking boot, slowly starting to jog. So hey, he made
on that. Why would you rush him? Why would you?
Well, they want to rush him. But listen, I actually thought Vernon was gonna. I was not impressed with Vernon Adams. Sorry.
Well, he had a good game in Calgary, and then he really struggled back home against Calgary.
Yeah, I didn't think he. Well, they made adjustments. That's a good thing about the Calgary. Calgary's got a good team. Listen, Jake Mayer's good. You know, they talk a lot of garbage about Bo Levi right now, which I don't really care about. They got the best running back. They have a great offensive line. They've only given up 9 quarterback sacks. Yeah, they lost a huge piece with Dennis going down, who might have been my front runner for most outstanding player. And
I think he still could be. I think he still could be.
He was having an outstanding year. I mean, when you have the leading rusher and you have a guy that's the least quarterback sacks, and those are the stats you look for the O-line. That's what So, and then this is a great comment by Vicky. They're going to have to get something out of Wilcox too. He's only got 2 tackles. Now I know he hasn't played a ton, but Cedric's going to have to really come to play at that other side, that defensive end now. I expect Cody Fajardo to try and air that ball out. They want to get the run game going. I actually heard that Craig Dickinson said one of the things they will utilize LaFrancis to chip block. You know that I think he's going to go and help out either tackle, whatever side that Willie Jefferson is on, and double team. Just chip him. Take him off the press. You know what I mean? Try and help out because they're not so worried about if Jeffcoat was there, different story. Which side you go to? Either animal will eat you, right? But I think that with Jefferson, I would, if I was a coordinator too, I'd have him go and chip him. Just help out that tackle and allow yourself to maybe block the interior and get some good time to throw the football. Maybe that's a little bit what Hamilton did. So, hey.
So for people that don't know what a chip block is, it's essentially throwing your shoulder, throwing your body into a defender and then releasing from them, just getting a piece of them to knock them off their mark, slow them down a little bit. And Chris, what does the chip block from the running back lead to? Leads to the screen game, leads to the bubble screen, leads to the pass game in the flats and near the line of scrimmage. So that could be how they utilize Keenan LaFranche or Mario Alford. So when you maybe don't have a traditional run game or confidence in a traditional run game, you set it up the way the Blue Bombers have had a run game in years past with Andrew Harris. Yeah, they would run it between the tackles, but getting him involved in the pass game that year where he broke the record for most receptions by a running back in CFL history, Paul LaPolice used to say, that is our run game. You put the ball in his hands near the line of scrimmage, try to find space. Maybe that's how Saskatchewan attacks Winnipeg today. And then even more importance is going to be on those defensive halfbacks and Donald Rutledge at the dime and Shane Gauthier at weak side to make sure that they're not missing that player and not running into a pile at the line of scrimmage, right?
Yeah, I agree 100%. The pressure is everything. They need to get some pressure. They need to get some things. And you got to play smart football. I think you just hit some incredibly smart points. That's what I would do. I'd be chipping them and then releasing them. Sometimes I'll double team them. Then I'll release. Much like a tight end. A lot of times you'll see the tight end do the same thing. He'll block and release, and then he becomes open. So there's a lot of opportunities, and we don't see a lot of that. I haven't seen a lot of screens this year by Saskatchewan or by Winnipeg to be that for that point. But I mean, Brady Oliveira is playing extremely well right now. Run the ball effectively. He's got the most carries in CFL, 161 carries. a nice 4.7 yard average, getting stronger as the year goes by. Got to give him a shout out for really impressed by the young man. I know it's not football related, but the fact that he went up north and rescued a bunch of other dogs again and puppies.
Yeah, it is cool.
That
Very
is so cool, man. I mean, I'm a dog guy, so this is something near and dear to my heart, what he does. Rather than leave these dogs up there where they could possibly get frozen in the wintertime. So, or not have a good life, put it that way. So, yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
But you know what? The Bombers are going to run the ball. You know that's their game. They got to run the football. But there's a couple other things I think is cool. Nick Dembski, 5 yards away from 3,000 career. And what I say, every time he plays Saskatchewan, what I say, he's the X factor. He's always making big plays against Saskatchewan.
He really is.
And you look at what he's done. He's had 12 in the 2 games so far. He's had 12 catches for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's the guy. He really is the guy, man. I mean, you look at Dalton Schoen. Dalton Schoen, another guy that has good games against Saskatchewan. 6 for 98, 2 touchdowns versus Saskatchewan. Here's a guy that's 12 yards away from 1,000 yards as a rookie, putting a stamp on that Rookie of the Year award.
Crazy.
Might as well get that plaque started to get engraved right now.
Oh, I might as well get his passport stamped. He's headed back south.
Oh, he'll be going. I told you that before. I mean, that's why I always tell people, watch
the
these
gift
guys.
And the curse, right?
Yeah. Pay the $1, go to see him play live because it's a beautiful thing. I'll tell you one thing, IG Field is so great, and I actually enjoyed it. The last game I was at, it was actually the Banjo Bowl. And what a fantastic game to be there. I mean, it's just the atmosphere is electric. The fans are electric. They've just created a great atmosphere there, and it's just super. I would just like them to bring the price of beer down. A little bit too expensive for the big man. Cost a little bit too much, man. I got short arms and deep pockets.
That's modern day, right? And the case across all economies right now. But the reality is, you're right. The energy and electricity and atmosphere at IG Field that I coined the Madhouse on Matheson. They're getting 30,000 plus consistently now with this team at double-digit wins, 12-2 now on the season. But since they hit double-digit wins, the Banjo Bowl, they've been getting 30,000 plus for all their home games or close to it. It says a lot about the uniqueness that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have been able to create with this team and with, speaking of dogs, I think I can hear yours.
Probably a Rough Rider at the door.
Well, he wants to join the loudest fans in the CFL at IG Field, right? It's a pretty cool atmosphere there.
Oh, yeah, it's funny. Hey, relax.
Oh boy.
God. Oh,
I called attention to him, and now he wants to say what's up.
Hey, it's funny. Sit down. We're not going anywhere. There's nobody here. He just I apologize for that. He's you're a good boy. Just relax. It's okay. Anyway, yeah. So it's funny you say that because I have 4 season tickets to DB, and I've had years where nobody even phones me for them, and I'm besieged with calls all the time. Hey, who's using your tickets? Hey, can I use the tickets? Can I get to the game? I haven't had a game. I got a friend who I just gave my tickets to a guy named Brian Clark, who's taken one of his friends who has a son who has a brain tumor, unfortunately, and he wants to go to the game. So I said, here. So I gave him tickets. I said, you know what, take all 4 so you guys can go together and watch a great game. So it's a feel-good thing, but it's a good thing. And I love the fact that you're going to a place where, as you say, it's almost always full, the electric crowd. And I want the young man to have a great time.
And if you're headed to the game, another great initiative is that the Blue Bombers are collecting school supplies for those in need at the game, with it being the Truth and Reconciliation game at IG Field. Like, who doesn't have unused notebooks, pencils, pens, markers, crayons, all the rest? Bring what you have, bring them to the stadium and help out those in need if you got them kind of kicking around the house, or maybe pop into a Staples or a Walmart or something like that on your way to the game. Do you want to mention one person texting in, Chris? You know what? I'm going to go to this one first. Winnipeg Gordo, who's among many watching us live here on YouTube. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining us here on Game Day Winnipeg, as always. Get down below, give a thumbs up, give a like, and a subscribe if you haven't yet. The CFL trade deadline, Chris, is less than a week away. October 5th it's Wednesday. So that's like a week less than a week from today. So what are the odds Kyle Walters is going to make a trade in the next week? Need some defensive line help, says Winnipeg Gordo. I would add some defensive back help, depending on the timelines for, say, a Nick Taylor.
Now, but the only thing you can get is you got
is
to
it
go
tough when a team like Winnipeg is so good? Sorry, go ahead.
You're not going to get them from a playoff contender. Anybody's got an opportunity to go in the playoffs. They're not going to start trading people. Practice rosters where you're going to see a lot of guys come. I know the Bombers signed a defensive lineman just the other day. A lot of guys that are just getting released by the NFL, not finding a home there. So there's, they want to play football, so they're coming up to Canada. But the only thing I can see is like if there's a guy in Ottawa or there's a guy on a team that's not, or Edmonton that you think might be able to help you. But what are you going to give up in exchange? It's never a freebie, right? You got to give something up. And I know a lot of times it's just a draft pick. And I know you're trying to play for the win. You're not playing for next year. You're playing for this year.
Winnipeg has to be careful with those first-round picks.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Because they need to rebuild. They need to rebuild some critical areas.
You tell me. I don't know if there's anybody. Are you talking about DBs and defensive backs, or excuse me, defense backs and defensive linemen?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we need another guy. I mean, is Jackson out for a while? Maybe this Deshaun Cooper will get an opportunity to play. See what he does. He didn't get many reps, so let's see what he does. This is an opportunity for Cedric Wilcox to maybe put his stamp on a position. I mean, is Jackson out again? This is the same injury he had before, I believe, because he was dealing with a hit earlier in the year. So I'm wondering if it's just a reoccurring thing with him.
Or if hip is just like, oh, let's just call it a hip.
Yeah, it could be. You never know. I mean, they don't really tell you much. Secret Sam over there. But I don't know. You got to make sure that you bring somebody in that's going to fit the culture too. That's a huge thing as well. You're not going to just sign a guy because it's like going out and signing, that DB that's used to be a receiver for Saskatchewan. He now plays defensive back for Edmonton. His dad was in the NFL. Oh, come on. I can't believe it. You know what I'm talking about. Jerron Carter. I'm personally, no. I don't know if he'd be a good locker room match for our team. See, guys, you look at our team right now, the Bombers, everybody's just like this. They're all plateaued. You don't really see it. One guy just being better. I mean, obviously, Zach is, the guy. But you don't see him mouthing or doing shows or, talking about himself or doing anything about what he does. It's all about everybody else, about team. The old adage, there's no I in team, but there's only one I in win, and that's a beautiful thing. So,
well, there's only one I in FIFO, right? Fit in.
There you go. Yeah, look at you.
Forget you.
Right. And I love that line, and that probably epitomizes exactly what I'm saying to a point.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, that's my opinion on that. I mean, you got to bring somebody.
I just wonder how challenging it will be for Kyle Walters to acquire talent from a team that is still in the hunt. Right now, you only have Ottawa, and really Edmonton's not even eliminated yet.
No, they're not. They have
a possibility of a trade partner. Who are you going to get at this point? Like, you can't wait a week or two and wait for you can wait 6 days, but you can't wait more than that and see how playoff positioning shakes out. See if, Hamilton gets eliminated or if Saskatchewan gets eliminated or that sort of thing. You can't wait. The East is wide open. I don't think anybody wants to subtract from there. They want to add. I think that's a challenge, an inherent challenge of a 9-team league and the trade deadline being in October. I don't know if you can push it much later than it is, but some food for thought there. But Winnipeg could probably use some help. They have expanded their practice roster.
That's right.
What I found interesting, Chris, is as they expand their practice roster, lots of offensive linemen being added.
Yes.
What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that you're always playing for the future, right? I mean, Stanley's 35, but I don't care about that because I played till I was 40. Jamarcus is young still.
Yeah, but you're a freak. You're a freak human being.
No, I wasn't freaky. I tell you what, I think that at that time, it was just, that was the way it was back then. I mean,
wait a second. I said a freak, and you're saying freaky. I know you're freaky.
Well, freaky. You're an idiot. I didn't know how to come back on that one, but I'm just going to let it go. But I'll say this. Yeah, they're playing for the future, these guys. I mean, they've done a great job. Listen to the scouts down there, Danny McManus and all those guys. They're bringing guys up that I know are going to be hopefully contributors down the road. And like a lot of these guys that come from the practice roster, they may not even get an opportunity to see the field. It's more like a developmental thing. Go give a thumbs up below the video, brother.
Hey,
that's true.
Hey, sometimes I wonder if you read the screen. I really wonder because you always got your head down your notes.
I got notes everywhere on my page. I basically that's one thing about the podcast is it's not, we don't just come on this and just talk about football.
I do.
We watch every other game. I watch every game. I go through the highlights. I see what they're doing. I like to hear the coaches talk. A lot of coaches will give you some good information. O'Shea is not like that. He's not one to tell you anything. He'll say, yeah, we'll see. Game day decision, we'll see. But on somebody, I just see this comment, Winnipeg Gordo. Jefferson stands out on this team, though. He beats to his own drum. Yeah, he does. That's true. But he's also a great team player. He does so much in the community. He's always around there helping people. So it's different. He's not about himself. Yeah. He's got his own. He plays to himself. I'm still. I'll be honest with you. Willie Jefferson's one of those guys that is a big fish in a smaller pond. I still don't know why he didn't go to the NFL. I think he could play the NFL. I think he's that talented. But I mean, he might be a linebacker down there. You know what I mean?
Outside linebacker, yeah.
Could be, but you never know. But yeah, I don't know. And Darryl Brandel said the same thing. Look at if Wilcox has 3 sacks, we don't have this conversation. You're 100% right.
Sure. And that could happen when you have someone like Willie Jefferson drawing a lot of attention, drawing that chip block. It could give Cedric Wilcox more opportunities one-on-one to make some moves. It's not like the Saskatchewan Roughriders or another team have a bunch of film on Cedric Wilcox of his tendencies and his pass rush moves.
Darryl Brandel, you're on top of it, brother. What about Gainey? That's not a bad pick either. Ed Gainey, he's in Edmonton right now. If Edmonton gets washed out, had a great career in Saskatchewan, left Saskatchewan. They kind of gave up on him in Saskatchewan, which was surprising. And then he signs in Edmonton with Chris Jones.
Chris Jones wanted Ed Gainey there to bring a little bit of veteran leadership, right?
Well, he is
guy he's familiar with in his first stint. Chris Jones, that is, with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. We've talked about Ed Gainey before, and shout out Darryl, who's been texting the
bonfire hotline. Good stuff, man. Hey.
Yeah, but I don't know if Edmonton would want to move. The price is right, sure. Chris Jones is trying to make his team better, but Ed Gainey, I think, is as valuable off the field and in the locker room as he is on the field right now.
Well, he's a couple years removed from having 9 or 10 interceptions for Saskatchewan. So I mean, he was a CFL All-Star a couple years ago. So yeah. Can he play? And that's a great point. But you never know who becomes available. But your point is just as valid. You don't trade away the future building blocks. And that's what Chris Jones is trying to build. He says, they took over a team that was horrible. They started horrible. They won last week. I think they signed it was interesting. They signed their quarterback. And now him and Jake Mayer, maybe the first 2 guys, and I don't know what other contracts, that are partially guaranteed now, which is something new the CFL never had. So it's starting to, and that's a smart move by the CFL because you're trying to keep players here, and you don't want to lose them to the USFL or the XFL or any other league that comes across. So to me,
or even another team.
Yeah, to me it's smart. It's just smart, man. And if I got a guaranteed contract, I don't know what partial, what partial means. Is it half? Is it 25%? Whatever, probably 25%. Another team is going to say, we have to take his contract on. So that's another interesting thing. We can renegotiate, but part of this guaranteed has to stay. So yeah, there's a lot of things going in that intangible. So it's interesting about that. I like it. I'm personally a fan of that. I hate when players sign a contract, they get hurt, and they're done. They got nothing. You're not taken care of. You're just basically out, basically banging on doors, selling vacuum cleaners. So
here's a question from Andre Harms, who's watching on YouTube. As good as Dalton Schoen is, how seriously can we think he is NFL bound next year? Consider Kenny Lawler's great year last season, yet he didn't make it in the NFL. And also Dalton Schoen had tryouts before coming here and did not make it in the NFL. That is true. Kenny Lawler did spend a good chunk of time in the U.S., jumping around from practice roster to practice roster, training camp invites and the like before coming to Canada. And he had a much longer path practice roster. And then I think he was like a late season practice roster addition in Winnipeg, and was on the practice roster for the majority of 2019, and then played a little bit towards the end. And then in 2021 had his big breakout year as an everyday starter. Dalton Schoen, couple times in the NFL. Like I think he was in Kansas City for a little bit, but a walk-on in college, underrated his whole career, and then comes to Canada and immediately produces. Doesn't have to wait on the practice roster. Doesn't wait 2-3 years. He is young. He is impactful. And I think NFL GMs, any GM would say this guy's ceiling is so much higher because of what he has shown us in a short period of time.
Well, I think there's the other thing too. I think that you got him on film now. When Schoen went down to the NFL, he had a cup of coffee. He went and practiced. You know, he ran the scout team. Maybe he got a few reps in, but he didn't see him in game time. No. So now you got a whole season here where he's probably going to win. He's a front runner. I think we can all agree that probably the front runner for the CFL rookie. Now you got so much tape on this guy, and this is how he reacts in certain situations. Look how he reads defenses. Look how he finds the hole in zone coverage. A lot of coaches down there are going to go, you know what? Maybe we've overlooked this guy. Let's give him a chance again. I just think there's going to be so much interest. Whether he makes it or not, listen, you know, coaches are weird down there. Coaches are weird. They all have their certain players they like and certain players they don't want to like. We used to have American coaches up here who hated Canadians. They just think Canadians can't play football. And seriously, unless you were American, you were garbage. And it's so nice to see the Canadian coaches come out, or guys that have Canadian pedigrees who understand this game and understand the value of good Canadian players, because we do have a lot of them. Look how many, I think there's 32 in the NFL right now. So, I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. But anyway, to go back to this point, Dalton will definitely get a look. Will he make it? I don't know. Again, those are ifs and buts. What if he gets hurt? What if, something bangs up, or, God forbid. Just enjoy him now.
Yep. Well, and hopefully he can come away with a little bit of jewelry before he goes down to the NFL, something you can't replace with a $500,000 American per year contract. I do want to go back, Chris, to the conversation about Jake Maier and Taylor Cornelius both signing contracts. Yeah. I want your opinion on how you see Bo Levi Mitchell's remaining time in pro football going. Does he remain a Calgary Stampeder as a number 2 at clearly a reduced salary next season? Does he explore free agency? Is there a chance? I don't think there is, but is there a chance that he could get traded this year?
Yeah, I would say no to the last question. I don't think you trade him, because God forbid something happens to Jake Maier and you're in the playoffs, you got to keep your 1 and 2. And he's a 2-time MVP. He's won the Grey Cup. He's taken his team there. Yeah, I saw there. To me, there's no way. And actually, I thought there was a comment that said we will discuss it at the end of the year.
Right.
So that to me speaks volumes that they're going to keep him. Next year, different story. He's making like $500,000. They can't.
Well, he took a cut. I think he's around 420.
Well, that's still a lot of money between the two of them. And he's a guy that he's got a lot of pride. Yeah. He wants to be the starter. And will there be opportunities? Absolutely. I mean, there's a whole bunch of teams would line up to sign that guy. But I think he's been there. How many years has he been there? 9 years or 8 years? He's basically he's the winningest quarterback in Calgary history. Sometimes people think, let's go. I'll go get some money. I'll be a starter. But then you end up on another team, and maybe it just turns out to be the worst decision you ever made, and you're not having the success. And now you say, boy, I just wish I would have stayed with that winning club, because Calgary's always had that pedigree of winning and an opportunity to go to the Grey Cup. So to me, I don't know, as a personal thing, yeah, you might have to eat a bit of money to stay. It'll come down to this. Does he want to stay, or does his pride say, no, I want to go play and I want to be that starting guy?
We talked about it on Bonfire Midweek, myself and Zach Schnitzer last night. And if you missed that, go check it out. Put it in your watch later list, or load up the podcast as well. But I looked at maybe 2 destinations possibly even 3 for Bo Levi Mitchell. A lot of people talking about Saskatchewan. I think that's the salacious place he could land with, obviously the tensions and the rivalry between Bo Levi and the Stamps and Rider Nation through the years. I think Montreal could be a place Bo Levi could go. I think they're much more built to win now, as far as, compared to some other teams that he could end up on. I don't see him in Edmonton. I think they have a longer path ahead of them to become a relevant competitive team. But Montreal, they started the season with Vernon Adams. They signed Trevor Harris as a bit of a contingency plan. I understand he's played well and that he has kind of been tossed aside many times in his career, but I don't think that's without reason. I think Bo Levi Mitchell could go to Montreal and put that team atop the division. Some people have even said Toronto. I can't see them bringing in Bo to bump off McLeod Bethel Thompson,
who's leading the league in passing right now, I might add.
Again, yeah.
But there's one guy that, when we started talking about this whole story, I thought about that Calgary and Saskatchewan going back and forth and having a player go from one team to the other. And the first name that popped into my head was Henry Burris. Henry Burris played for Saskatchewan. He was a beloved player there. And all of a sudden he's in Calgary. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, it happens. It can happen. That's what I'm saying. But I don't see it happening. I mean, I know there's a lot of negativity going, surrounding Cody Fajardo. I don't get it. I mean, he's not playing terrible. I've seen other guys play way worse than him. And
when he ain't getting help, we know how bad that O-line is.
Well, 8 sacks last night. He saw more clouds. I actually phoned him after the game. I said, "Did you see any of those cumulus clouds?" He said, "I saw a whole bunch." I said, "How about another raincoat?" "Oh, I saw a whole bunch." Because he was looking on his back, looking at the clouds all game. Mm-hmm. You got the hill. You got that. You got that analogy, did you? Good. It's about time you caught up to my stories. So anyway, I just think that Cody is still, when I watch him throw the football and his legs are healthy right now, you know what? He still get it done. I'm sorry. I'm still on his bandwagon right now. That's why. If he wasn't playing, if it was Mason Fine tomorrow, no, Bombers are going to walk all over him. But I think
I'm a little bit in the middle on Cody Fajardo. There are good things he has shown. He is a good dual threat quarterback. He has been banged up in his knee. I think that has absolutely affected his ability to throw the ball downfield. Short yardage, he's still quite effective, short and medium range. But he has had an excellent run game, whether it was Frankie Hickson or before that. Why is the name escaping me? Sheesh, I'm off my game.
Jamal Morrow.
Jamal Morrow. Both outstanding tailbacks and explosive players that have had great success this season. He has great receiving in Swerve, in Kieran Moore, in Duke Williams, in Shaq Evans. And I understand Shaq missed a lot of the season, but Keenan Schaefer Baker is a heck of a good football player. Brendan Lenius is a really, really good football player. They've got a lot of talent around him. So I think you take the good with the bad and maybe don't hang everything on the quarterback. Saskatchewan is a tough place to play. They're always going to look at the quarterback first as the reason why they're losing. But Saskatchewan was geared up this year, Chris, to compete and to drive for a Grey Cup on home turf. Anytime a team hosts a Grey Cup, they're trying to win that season. The defense is stout, top to bottom, talent, scheme, coaching. The offense has not worked. And in my opinion, the reason it hasn't worked on offense is poor offensive line protection. I think that's the obvious.
Number one.
Mine is that Cody Fajardo cannot throw the deep ball effectively right now. Jason Moss has always built a vertical style offense. He wants guys getting downfield, and then the stuff at that linebacker level starts to open up. That's not the game Cody Fajardo is playing at all.
Listen, he's still got 22 passes over 30-plus yards. He's in the middle of the pack of all starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, because he just hucks it up to Duke.
Well, Duke, I mean, Keon Schaefer Baker has 4 touchdowns, 4 catches over 30. Shaq Evans has 4 over 30.
Those guys should have 10.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but I think the O-line, if you don't got time to throw that deep ball.
Exactly.
Back, I mean, come on, man. I don't care if you're Zach or you're Cody. They've had they've had a different offensive line combination every game, and it's so hard. You make mistakes. You think you got this guy, you forget this guy. Guy comes through the gap. You thought you were sliding. All of a sudden, boom! Your quarterback's on his back, and quarterbacks just can't take that many hits.
Okay, Chris. Let's get into your keys to the game as we wrap up. Towards the first and final hour of Game Day Winnipeg. What's it going to take Winnipeg to improve to 13-2 on the season? They've got the stadium on their side. No question home field will be an advantage, but what do they need to accomplish between the lines? For me, this game is going to come down to pressure. I think that you have to take away the running game of Keelan LaFrance or whoever runs it, Mary Alford, whoever. They said they might even have Keon Schaefer-Baker run the ball a little bit. Whoever's running the ball, stuff to run, make Cody beat you through the air, and then pin your ears back and come after him. They need to get pressure. Do not leave your secondary, basically naked. You got to force them so they can get turnovers. I mean, we saw what happened. They didn't get any pressure on Dane Evans and Hamilton. So for me, the big thing is pressure by the defense. Offensively for our team is mix it up. Don't give up on certain things. Good first down production, because when they're in second and short, they're a very productive team. They're number one in the CFL for second down conversion. They 57%, which is crazy. You want to put yourself in a great situation where you can utilize your entire playbook. Special teams, hey, I got nothing about special teams. I think Mark Leggio is doing well. You think he's 6 for 6 his last 6 kicks, 55-yarder now. He's 87%. Don't miss those extra points, though, buddy. That's the only thing that drives me crazy. But other than that, I listen, the Bombers should win. They absolutely should win tomorrow. 8-point favorites. 8 points is a lot to put on the line if you are on SIA.com/bonfire. I'm more like the over-under. You can see those numbers below right there. I think the Bombers game, as it just said, 48.5 is the number. But head over to SIA.com/bonfire. Sign up through that link, and you help support Bonfire Sports directly. The only thing I will add to your keys to the game, you bring it all, but I just try to sprinkle in one at the end. Is Winnipeg's offensive line.
That's Cody Fajardo language.
Jesus sprinkles. Mine aren't quite Jesus sprinkles, but they do involve DeMarcus Christmas.
Oh, there you go.
When you're going up against Pete Robertson, AC Leonard, they're rotating in Charleston Hughes, DeMarcus Christmas. That is and then they're backed up by a linebacking core with Larry Dean and Darnell Sankey and Derek Moncrief. That's a very, very talented group, a very physical group. Winnipeg's offensive line needs to go smack Saskatchewan in the mouth and not let up. Get Brady Oliveira going. That will take a lot of pressure off of a receiving core that is a little bit banged up right now. Could we see a run and gun style game with a lot of points? Absolutely. That's kind of why I like the over on SIA.com/bonfire. Okay, Chris, you got a hair appointment. I was talking about this.
Yeah, I got to trim that up too, buddy. But it's getting close to Christmas time. The weather started to change. Mind you, we do have a beautiful weekend this weekend. It's beautiful. Beautiful night for the game tomorrow. Yeah. Beautiful night for the weekend, or beautiful days for the weekend, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Have a nice weekend, and Bombers will be, 13-2? Not bad way to go. And they got Edmonton. I'm curious how Edmonton does this week, too. I'll be watching that game as well. But let's take care of that. Let's take care of those Green Goblins first.
Absolutely. It's going to be absolutely lit up at IG Field on Friday. Bring some school supplies to the game to help those who need it. It is the Truth and Reconciliation game. They're going to be singing the national anthem in Ojibwe. So wear orange, wear your blue and gold as you always do. And do want to mention the Winnipeg Rifles, Winnipeg's junior football team, still ranked top 10 in the country. They lost by 6 points to the undefeated Regina Thunder at IG Field last weekend. They've got a huge game coming up this weekend in Edmonton against the Huskies. They're back on IG Field turf on October 16th. Don't miss that. Follow them on social at Rifles Football and at riflesfootball.com. Thanks for this, Chris. We will see you next week. We got another bye? It almost feels like we're gonna do it again on Friday, but we'll get back to 3 p.m. Right?
Is it Saturday? They play next Saturday?
That's right.
Oh, they got another break, so they win tomorrow. They're going to get about 2-3 days off again. What a great schedule these guys got.
Well, good in the second half.
Yeah, it's going to be really nice for the guys coming back. I mean, but you're right. But you know what? Let's enjoy the game, fans. Enjoy the game tomorrow. It's going to be a beautiful day. Watch Zach on his race for MVP and Dalton Schoen for his continued race for outstanding rookie, and Stanley Bryant or Jamarcus Hardrick for lineman. Who the hell knows, man? I don't know. I'm just one man, and they don't pay me enough.
That's your motto, baby.
Amen, brother.
Okay, we'll see you after the game. Game day after dark, after Bombers, Riders at IG Field Friday night. Thanks, Chris. We'll see you next time.
Have fun, guys. Say hi to Schnitzer for me. All right. Bye-bye.